Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to be taking a look at some of the stocks I'll be buying probably over the next month or so, just depending on how everything works out in the market. So, we're going to take a look at my portfolio here and then I'll show you which stocks I will be buying. You can see right now, as of this recording, my portfolio is sitting at 314,826. Not at our all-time high. We did have a little bit of a drop, but I've been putting a little bit of money in. Actually added a new fund into this portfolio, or new stock, I should say. And we'll kind of break that down a little bit here. I won't go into too much detail with it, but it is paying out a dividend, which is great. It is a pretty low one, so I'll probably get some flack for that as well, because my name and how low of a yield my actual portfolio is giving me based off of the total dollar amount. I hear it all the time. I totally get it, and rightfully so, since I talk about dividends a lot. Although, in 11 years, when I plan on living off of these dividends to some capacity, that's going to just be a really great reflection point, because that's what these videos honestly are for me. These are just kind of like a journal point to see how I'm doing and just kind of reflect as well. So, not that that's all super important for everybody, but I want to kind of show you some things. So first and foremost, the last little fund here that I have, I actually switched this over to travel. And this actually was real estate. So it's just a little bit of a shift, because when I added my new fund here, and you're going to see that in a second, I added Booking Holdings, which is like booking.com, and they own a bunch of different things. I added a holding onto here. You can see it's already down just, by 0.37%. But you can see here, the current stock price is 3,763. I so far have put in about 1,700. That was actually with just one purchase, and I'll show you here with my some of my most recent purchases. Can't talk. And you can see that's about a 0.45002 on the amount of shares that I have of this holding. So that's what I love about M1 Finance and a lot of other brokerages nowadays. They let you do what they call fractional shares. So if you're somebody who's like, well, I can't invest in a company because the price is so high, and also, truth be told, the price of the actual stock doesn't dictate if it's a good stock or a bad stock. But because of the high price point, I was able to still own portions of a share just because of fractional shares. So if you want to get into being able to buy fractional shares, check out the link in the show notes down below for M1 Finance. That's who I'm using here, and it really helps out for being able to put in whatever dollar amount I can at the time and have the shares I want to have. So I'm going to just quickly go into Qualtrim here, which Joseph has here on YouTube if you guys watch his content. I actually absolutely love utilizing his stuff with Seeking Alpha. Those are like the two sites I mainly use, and mainly because he does a lot of visuals, and I'm a hugely visual person. So this looks really nice. So I just kind of want to go over some things here for us. So you can see the forward PE ratio with this company is 20.16. You can see here they have a nice cash flow even when you account for stock-based compensation. It's always really nice to see. The current dividend yield, I think this might be off a little bit because I believe it's a little lower than this, but it's about 1%. So like I mentioned earlier, I get a lot of flack for having such a low yield on my dividends, but with the dividend increases that I'm expecting to have with these companies, I'm not too worried about it, honestly. And you can see right over here, a really big deal with this one too is that the payout ratio, and I'm going to zoom in here because this is like super far. Oh, I might have zoomed in the wrong way. There we go. Is 6.57. So I believe there's going to be so much room for growth on the dividends in this company. So I've been taking a look at them for a little bit. I usually don't share a lot of like what I'm looking for with these companies, but I had it in the background for a little bit. And obviously I could have bought in when it was a little bit lower, but at this point I felt like it was just a good time for me to jump in, and I don't want to be waiting so long to get into a company that I want to hold on to. So you can see their cash flow has been pretty steady for a while here. They don't have a lot of debt, they have a lot of debt, but they don't have like crazy amounts of debt. And the only company I really hold that has a lot of debt is going to be Home Depot. And I'm honestly still not a big fan of that. So I do like seeing this. They just started paying out a dividend. You can see it's $8.75. But when you compare it to the stock price, that's what you get that very low yield for. And then you can see one of the other great things is that the share buybacks is really great. So if we go over the last 5 years, they are buying their shares back pretty heavily. This just means I'm going to have more ownership in the company. I believe I saw some article about it on Seeking Alpha that they might be trying to go private And if that ends up being the case, I'm obviously most likely still going to be ideally looking at some growth for this company if that ends up happening. Well, if it doesn't, I'm just going to end up having more shares or more equity into the company as well too, as they keep doing some buybacks. So that's just one of the companies that I am planning on buying. I'm going to show you some of the other ones here in just a moment. So I'm really excited. I haven't added a new holding into my portfolio for quite some time. It's been some time since I've done some adjustments. So now I'm sitting at a total of 12 in my portfolio here, which is really nice. You can see we got Google here at the top with the overall valuation of the fund itself. So, well, I say fund, but the actual stock. And so let me show you the other companies I'm going to be buying, and I'm going to actually jump over to Seeking Alpha. This is what I like to use to kind of help gauge where I want to be investing. And I know I shared this before too, but I really like kind of going this route. So I am here on seekingalpha.com. It's the other website I love to use. If you want to check them out, link will be in the notes below. So you can see here, we have the 52-week range. And what I like to do is just take my marker and honestly just go straight down this right over here on this 52 weeks. It's about even. So I look at all the dots that are closer to the left-hand side of this section here, which is going to be SoFi, Home Depot, and then a little bit of Airbnb. And so these are the companies that, as of right now, I've been putting in probably, I would say, the most. So if I go into my activities here, I did some buys. That's where I ended up buying Booking Holdings. So you can see they're about 1,700. And then you can see SoFi, Airbnb, and Home Depot. I also am still investing with Google, even though they are on their 52-week high, or wherever they are. Right here, they're on their 52-week high, just with their PE ratio, and Google just being one of my favorite companies to be investing in. I am still investing in that as a whole. And for me, just looking at the companies and where they're at, where they're going, obviously SoFi is a pretty big risk as of right now, saying with their PE ratio. I think it's like 90 or something like that. Let's take a look here. Forward PE ratio right now is 81, so it's obviously still very, very high, while also at the same time, I see a lot of great potential with this company, and if it's going to end up being like most banks, it's going to be paying a dividend in the future at some point, and that's going to be really nice, seeing as if I go back here, show you how many shares I have of the company. Going into here, we have currently 5,730 shares of SoFi here in this portfolio. I do have it a little bit in another portfolio as well. You can see our average cost is $7.12. It kind of fluctuates between like $6.50 or around $6.50 all the way to $7.58. So I kind of stay within a margin of like being in the positive or just at least breaking even at this point. I am honestly not too worried about this right now. Again, even though they're not paying a dividend, I can see this in the future where they do, and when that ends up becoming the case, that's going to be a really, really healthy dividend, and that yield on this overall portfolio is going to go up. And then all the people that get mad at me for having a 1% yield can stop talking about that. But again, that'll be in 11 years, so hopefully they'll still be around to be watching this content, helping support the channel by liking and subscribing, because even if you don't like the way I have my portfolio, I really appreciate you hanging out and watching this content with me. So for me, like I said, those are going to be the companies that I'm getting into right now: Airbnb, Home Depot, SoFi. Obviously, just started my holdings on Booking and really fascinated with it. I'm excited to see where that one goes. And if you by any chance have been looking at Booking, let me know what your thoughts are on this in the comments down below. But I'm going to do you a favor. Like I mentioned earlier, I have all my resources in the show notes if you want to check them out. But I'm going to go ahead and place a video right over here on screen for you to keep on watching and learning when it comes to investing.